Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series. I am thrilled today to have founder and CEO of Food Scene, Felicia Perry Trujillo, with me today. And I'm so excited. I was just telling her I'm a massive fan of her LinkedIn and the incredible photography that she has and what her company does. So I'm really excited to have her here and let her introduce herself.
Thanks for having me. Yes, I am the founder and CEO of Food Scene, which is a boutique marketing studio. And we specialize in digital marketing, social media marketing, content creation, public relations, digital ads. But I created Food Scene based on my career as a photographer,
Okay.
which preceded Food Scene
Yeah.
and kind of kicked it off. So I'm also a professional photographer that specializes in food, beverage, product, tableware.
I want to kick right to it and just why food for you? Why the food and hospitality industry?
Well, my husband has been in the hospitality industry
Okay.
for like 25 years.
Okay.
Um, and that's what brought us to Raleigh from Los Angeles at the end of 2013, beginning of 2014. Um, Prior to moving here, I was a photographer. I was a professional photographer and I was shooting events in LA. But when I moved here and we had two babies,
Yeah.
I that career had run its course. I'd done 10 years shooting events,
Okay.
but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I would just shoot anything when I got here because I needed a creative outlet. And so I
Yep.
still did some events, I did some weddings. But the turning moment for me into the food space was um, just a couple months after we had moved here at the restaurant my husband was running at the time. They were doing a collaborative chef's dinner.
Okay.
And the owners had asked if he could bring in a photographer to capture the event and
Yeah.
post on social media. And I was like, I'll do it. That was like this moment, like my head cracked
Yeah.
open, my soul cracked open. I was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah.
I love this. And I had not really felt that way about
Yeah.
anything professionally. I always felt like I was like, where do I go? What do I do?
Right.
What is
Right.
that thing? And this was the thing. And so I was like, can I come back tomorrow? Can I shoot some more? There was just something I loved.
Yeah.
I loved capturing the energy in the kitchen. I loved the
Okay.
beauty in the food. And
Okay.
then it grew from there.
I love food and I so anytime that I see your stuff I'm like, "Oh, yes, food. Food, food, food." But I would love to take it to the creation of the story behind the creation of Food Scene. You know, you were a photographer, but how did Food Scene kick off and get started?
In the beginning of 2014, after I had done that first restaurant shoot, um, I was kind of stalking the restaurant and was coming back and doing some more shoots. And the owner said, why don't you go ahead and hire her to photograph our seasonal menus, to update the
Okay.
website, to
Yeah.
post on social media. And that was not my area of expertise, but I knew how to update websites. And I I mean, social media and food blogging was in 2014 and 2013 was not what it is now. It was still
Right.
quite new. And so I did. I started just posting every day and taking pictures
Yeah.
every day, um, and getting to know people in the community through this particular restaurant, through my
Yeah.
husband. Um, and the more I got to know people, the more I'd start doing projects, free projects,
Yep.
just to
Yeah.
build that side of my portfolio and just to make connections.
Yep.
And then quite quickly, other restaurants started calling and asking, can you do that for us? Can you
Yeah.
take pictures? Can you post on social? And I realized quite quickly that I had something, like there was something there.
Yeah.
There was something to telling the story on social media
Yeah.
about food, about business, about experiences with really great imagery. Um, and then it really grew and evolved
Yeah.
quite significantly from there over
Yeah.
the last 9 years.
That's incredible. And I think to your point, incredible imagery of food in a food blog. It has the power to make you drool almost and
Mm-hmm.
make you really entice you into things. So I think it's incredibly important, and especially since, like you were saying, food blogging is has grown substantially to what it is today from 2014. It's amazing. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
because most of the time you talk to somebody and everybody and their mother has at this point had experience with their own blog or something of the sorts.
Yeah.
It's incredible. You have a very nimble but mighty team
Mm-hmm.
of incredible women that is part of Food Scene. What is the most important thing to you when building a team?
It's it's the people.
Okay.
It's I think of myself as being pretty intuitive
Okay.
when it comes to people.
Yeah.
And so when somebody comes in to interview for a position, I
Yeah.
can quite quickly tell, like, this person fits in the culture, or
Yeah.
this person gets Food Scene or what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
Because we have always operated a little bit differently. I
Yeah.
mean, way before COVID, we worked remote, we worked in office,
Right.
we
Right.
didn't have set vacation schedules. It's always been that way because that's how I've always preferred to work.
Right.
Um, and even the like, we don't want everybody to be the same. We want
Right.
all
Right.
types of different personalities and types of people. But the common connection, I think, with people who are successful at Food Scene and that work well with our team are people who can work independently, who can
Right.
take initiative, who can push themselves creatively,
Okay.
that can thrive being an independent worker, but also thrive being like in a collaborative space.
And what I loved when I was doing my research about Food Scene and what I loved about on your website is the different just fun questions and fun like icebreaker things that you guys have underneath each of your photos. I think it's such
Mhm.
a creative way just to
Great.
get to further know your team. Um, I think it's just I just love those opportunities just to get to know teams in a better way
Mhm.
outside the boring just name.
Well, for us, like with everybody we work with our
Right.
clients, with our
Yeah.
team, with other because we'll collaborate with other agencies too
Okay.
for our clients. It's all about the relationships and it's all about a personal element. No matter how big or
Yeah.
small the client is that we work with, those relationships are
Yeah.
the most important thing. And so that's why we recently went through a rebrand, and
Okay.
you're talking about our new website. Like, we really wanted that message to come across on the website. Like, we're human beings. We're
Yeah.
going to treat you like human beings. We want you to treat us like human beings.
Yeah.
We're not going to speak jargon. We're just going to talk
Right.
real and be
Right.
honest and transparent through all the
Love it.
processes.
And where you are today, where are you seeing clients come to you and say, this is where we need the most help? Because you have services in social media marketing, content creation, digital ads. Where are you seeing the we need help badly in this
Mhm.
area right now?
Um, Most of our clients at this point in Food Scene's journey are companies that are established companies that are kind of at this midpoint in their growth where they know who they are, they know what they do, and they know where they're going. But they don't yet have this they're not large enough where they have this in-house machine.
Okay.
They typically have outside agencies that they collaborate
Okay.
with. So fortunately, they're not coming to us with a blank slate
Yeah.
typically. Um, in terms of the service offerings that they're looking for, I mean, the our two of our core most long-standing service offerings are the social media strategy management,
Okay.
and the professional photography content creation. I mean, those have been service offerings since day one. So those are the most, I think, what we're most known for,
Okay.
and the most, I guess, like utilized services. Um, but we also onboarded public relations as a service offering last year. So that's new
Okay.
for Food Scene.
Okay.
Um, So we've both brought in clients that have inquired about social media, but they're like, "Oh, you also do PR? We need PR," and some that are coming to us just for the PR component because they're handling their own social media or already have an existing social media team, and then the digital ads component. And the digital ads component, I mean, it's simply a complement to your existing digital, social media strategies. So it's more for most of our clients, like in addition to the other things.
Makes total sense. And of course, today in the social media heavy world that we have, like it's incredible the amount of strategy and the things that go into it for that just aren't thought of for a
Mhm.
business.
Oh, yes. And especially when it comes to social media. I mean, when I first started Food Scene, it was me, it was my phone, and it was no strategy. And now at this point, we don't even log into a client's social media accounts until after 6 weeks, because we do a roughly 6 week due diligence process, where we do a brand deep dive. We acquire all of your assets. We log into your accounts and assess what's been going on, and look at the stats. And we build out a strategy, and we build out an initial content calendar before we ever put up that first post. So it's it's a beast, and a lot
Oh,
of clients that haven't experienced that before kind of surprised, like, wow, okay, this is very involved. I love it. There's a plan here. And same thing when we interview and hire candidates, because there's a lot of people who come from the social media world, the blogging world, are like, I could just put content up. And it's like, no, like this is a whole different thing. This is a lot more calories burned in your brain than it is doing any of the creative work, because you've got to map it all out.
I think doing an audit is one of the most important pieces in terms of when you're walking into a very new space. I just walked into a new job and doing social media, and I walked in, and for the first 2 weeks that I've been here, I literally sat down and I was like, I've talked to everybody who's connected to it.
Mhm.
I want to know what the posting's like what's the cadence. I want to know everything. And so I think it's so undervalued how important an audit is of a brand when you're kind of walking in, because you need a really clear picture of just exactly what you need to do from an expertise perspective.
Absolutely.
And I think a content calendar is one of the most important pieces, one of the other
Yeah.
underrated pieces. And it's so funny because a lot of places just don't have it, and it's like you're standing there, you're like, you're crazy, because how are you not like I'm such a type A that I'm like, I have to be organized and be able to
Mhm.
see just what exactly is going out.
Well, I mean, I think the problem is that for every single business knows that they have to have social media. And it's this daunting obligation. And most business owners or business managers or even marketing managers within an organization, nobody wants to do it, or it's not a priority. It's like, oh, we know social media is so important. However, this takes top priority. This takes top priority. And social media always gets pushed down. And when you don't have a content calendar in addition to that, you're just maybe you're posting 10 times in a week, and then you're not posting for 6 months. And maybe this image looks different than this image, and your message is disconnected. But it's hard for most businesses to
Yeah.
either A, do the social media or the marketing themselves, or
Yep.
B, figure out how to budget for it. Because marketing or any sort of creative work, graphic design, photography, there isn't always a tangible return. And
Yep.
so it can be very difficult for some mindsets to accept that.
Yeah.
A lot of organizations or individuals want to see, okay, if I spend X dollars, how many X dollars am I getting in return? And marketing doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, it's incredible how much selling I've had to do, just how important social media is. I'm like, and to your point, it's not something tangible all the time where you're looking at everybody, you're going, okay, this is the total engagements that you've got. And
Mhm.
then they're looking at you going, what does that mean? Well, this is the amount of eyeballs that are on us right now. How can you then take those eyeballs and translate that and keep them coming back and keep them
Mhm.
moving forward down the funnel? But it is so crazy to me, like you were saying, just how not prioritized it is. And then of course you bring somebody in to do social media and they're like, holy crap, like we
Mhm.
haven't been doing this at all. Like this could, and you're sitting there going, well, technically you did have it on your list. It's just you said other things were prioritized,
Mhm.
but it is crazy just as we keep going into this heavy social media and digital world. The companies that still don't have social media, it seems like there's a disconnect there on
A lot
what.
more than I mean, you'd be. I mean, there's a lot more than you think.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
shocking. Yeah.
it is. It's crazy to me. Um, but I guess that's the fun part, I guess, of working at an agency, and
Hmm.
it's just you get to go in and that's what I've always valued about agencies. You get to go in and you get to see a bunch of different perspectives and a bunch of different cultures and how people run their own businesses, which I think is really you just get a lot of perspectives.
Yeah. I mean, it's been my that's probably one of my favorite parts, especially when we've onboarded really large organizations.
Yeah.
And there are these organizations, you're like, oh my God, like, oh, they want us. And you think, oh, they've got it all figured out and they have all their ducks in a row. And you realize, like, nobody does. Like, it's not that they're any less or more disorganized or
Yeah.
have their shit together than any other organization. You just realize every organization, small, medium, large, have areas where they have strengths and have areas where they need
Yes.
support.
Yes.
Um, and that's been something that's really been so cool to
Yeah.
experience because you're just like, oh yeah, we're all in this together and we're all trying to figure it out.
On photo shoot days,
Uh-huh.
just how hungry does the set get?
Uh, that's something that it's so funny. I eat the least I ever eat on photo shoot days.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. For a couple reasons. A, because I'm so focused on
Yeah.
shooting that the last thing I'm thinking is, oh, I'm going to pause. I'm in this zen or I'm in this
Yeah.
moment. I'm going to stop and eat. Also, a lot of times, like food, either it's being touched by a lot of hands or it's being set aside and brought
Yeah.
back or whatever. And so you're like, do I want to eat something that,
Yeah.
hands have been all over?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, unfortunately, probably a lot of food goes to waste, or I bring it home and eat it at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually get hungrier when I'm editing. That's
Oh,
when I'm like, oh my God, which it means like I did a good job.
you're just sitting there. Well, and I do a lot of video editing, and all of a sudden I'll look up and it's like 3 hours later, and I'm like, oh, I need to like get up and actually do something that's not
Yeah.
staring at this laptop,
Hmm.
and actually eat something probably.
Yeah.
As a CEO and a founder of Food Scene, I would love just to ask the sticky question of, as you've created your company, some of the failures you've run into, but also some of the successes that have
Mhm.
happened.
Oh my God. Like, I feel like there's been more successes and failures, but the failures have been like gut wrenching. And
Uh,
a lot of the failures, I mean, they're not even like, oh, this thing flopped. It's more like long, drawn out doldrums, Um, and I've gone through a few of them. I mean, I think last year was interesting because it wasn't a failure at all. What it was a year where I decided to work on my business. So I hired a business coach and I hired a business consultant and changed CPAs and like spent the whole it was like going through like an MBA program all over again. It was like hired a branding company to do all of our rebranding, our messaging, our new website. And so it was like all this stuff that was necessary, but not the fun part for me. And so I really, throughout the whole year, I just felt like, ugh, like not a failure, but I just felt like this is not fun. I don't know what's going to
yeah.
come of this. Um, and now I'm in a different year where I've done all the things and laid out the foundation. It's like, oh my God, oh my God. Like it's such a different organization.
Yeah.
We have all of our ducks in a row, all of our documents are organized, all of our
Yeah.
protocols are organized, our
Yeah.
team is all squared away. Um, you know, how we handle client onboarding, how we handle team onboarding, like everything's set. My perspective is so different. So out of that, low. And even though it was like learning and all these wonderful things were happening, it wasn't high for me. Out of those, like, like trudging through this mud was like, wow, like I am such a different business owner on the other end. And you had, introduced me as like founder and CEO. And I've always thought, oh, am I a CEO? I've got like 8 people on my team or 5 people on my team or however many at the time. And it feels silly to call yourself a CEO of such a small organization. However, this is the first year I've really owned that because yes, like a CEO is somebody who it can take a team, however big or small, through something like that, or they can take clients and their organization through that with us seamlessly. Like they didn't know what we were working on internally. They can strategize growth, that it can improve upon P&Ls, that can strategize for our clients. So it's like all these challenges or failures. I mean, I've had failures where I got, yelled at by a client or, made a mistake on a post or whatever. Like all of those feel like punches in the gut, and are excruciating because you want to be perfect and flawless all the time. But those have all been the moments where I've like made it my mission to improve upon whatever flopped or failed or needed improvement, to the point where I can, with confidence, not only call myself a CEO, but be a CEO for my team, for our clients, and for the company.
I want to, as you were mentioning it, you're rebranding. I did a rebranding process. I think it's a very exhausting, but it's a very eye-opening kind of
Yeah.
experience that you're like, all of these pieces go into rebranding for an entire company. Was there something that you like going through that process, you were like, what in the, I didn't even know that this had to go into it? Or was there something, was there a learning that came from your rebranding?
I knew everything. So the company MRC that did our rebrand, we share an office. So, and we collaborate and we refer clients back and forth and work on client projects together. So I knew everything that was going into it. Um, but it, like, for me at first it was like, ooh, fun, I get to fill out this questionnaire. And then it was like, oh my God. Like I want to change my whole questionnaire 3 months later. I want to change it again 3 months after that. Or the tedium of having to write copy and come up with imagery for the website. Like that was the most painful part, because it's your website and you're like, this has to be perfect
Yes.
representation of everything, and suffering over it and doubting it. So it took longer than I thought because of me holding myself up. Um and but it also reaffirmed to me like how critical it is, and also how important it is for us to work with organizations that have gone through that process.
Absolutely. I will say all the rebranding, the website looks phenomenal, and I
Thank
love how
you.
simple and beautiful it is. Um, while we were talking about the whole photo shoot process, through the photo shoots, through the editing of the photos, whatever it may be, where do you find creativity in the work that Food Scene gets to do?
Mhm. I'm going to kind of back up a little bit, because I feel like I mentioned, last year I went through all this rebranding and identifying, having a coach and stuff. And part of that process, there were a couple of intentions, because people have always known me as, oh, Felicia, she's the food photographer. And I intentionally kind of extricated myself from that a little bit, because I really wanted to prop up Food Scene as an agency that's sustained on its own, an agency that could exist without me or with me, that wasn't just about, oh, it's Felicia with a camera and a phone. So with that, also my identity as a photographer kind of shifted too. Am I the founder and CEO of Food Scene? Am I a professional photographer? Am I both? And if I am both, how do I communicate that to people and also separate them? So they still kind of operate a little bit in little silos. So the creativity is kind of different at this point now, after 9, 10 years, where the creativity for Food Scene, I mean, largely comes from our team, with all the inner workings. I'm on all client calls and I'm aware of everything that's going on, but I don't do the internal work. So all that creativity comes with the dynamics between our team and our client's team. But I think I lead it by like the tone that I've set for the team, the values, the energy, our space, how food scene brings in clients, and that's through word of mouth and networking and established relationships and all of that. And I think all of that fuels the creativity with food scene. We also don't try to be like other agencies or how agencies are supposed to work. We just do what works for us and what works for our clients. That's what fuels that creativity. Um, with the photography is a little bit different when I'm shooting, because we have
Yeah.
other team members that shoot. When I'm
Yeah.
shooting, it's a totally different project. So sometimes the client's like, we have a basic idea, but don't know where to take it. And so
Yeah.
me and my stylist were like, oh, we got ideas for you. And, we're going on Pinterest, or we're just like, oh, I already have a vision for this. Or
Yeah.
we kind of put together the ideas. And sometimes our clients come to us and like, this is our vision. Can you help us execute? And we're like, yes. Um, so, and then the creativity is fueled by all the planning that goes into it. If we're sourcing props or, whatever sort of prep. And then when we're on set, we're in this, enclosed set, like when we're on a catalog shoot and there's, 8 people on set and we're, working together for 5 days straight. A lot of what fuels the creativity is just us, the camaraderie and the relationships of the room and the creative ideas and vision coming from everybody in that room.
It's almost scary to say that we're almost halfway through 2023, which is very
Yeah,
scary to say.
wild.
It's crazy. What are you looking forward to for the rest of this year?
God, it's, I, I don't know how to answer that because I had like a total mindset shift this morning when I woke up. I was
Okay.
like, it's a whole different day.
Yeah.
Um, because, because, I spent all of last year preparing for the next phase of my business. Um, and it's funny because when my business coach asked me last year, like finally, like it was all about setting goals, right?
Yeah.
Long-term goals,
Yeah.
short-term goals, blah, blah, blah. And I finally told her, I'm like, I hate setting goals. And she's like, wait, what? Like, you hate setting goals? I'm like, yes, I don't want to set any more goals. And, and it's funny, I reflect on that now. And I still kind of mean it and kind of
Yeah.
don't, right? Because then I did the opposite in the beginning of this year. I was like, my goal is to do this this month, and my goal is to do this month. But then the universe has a way of putting you in check, right? So
Right.
we onboarded some great projects the first few months of the year,
Okay.
some big projects. And I was like, all right, let's keep going. My team's like, hold up. We need to get caught up. We just
Yeah.
onboarded all these new clients. We've got to get our ducks in a row. We've got
Yeah.
to get them to be a well-oiled machine before we can onboard anymore. So now we're like in a pause. So it's like, I was like, oh, well, by the end of the year, we'll be here. And now I've realized, like, hold on, like, let's take a break
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
be very discerning about the calls we take
Yeah.
and the proposals we send and the clients we onboard and how we onboard them and when.
Yeah.
So right now I'm in this space of let's just focus on us. Let's
Okay.
make sure the team feels confident that they're doing their best work. Let's make sure the team doesn't feel like they're on red alert and working too many hours.
Yeah.
Let's make sure everyone is taking their weekends off
Yeah.
and clocking out at 5 or 6 or whatever. So right now, today, we're just like, you know what? We're just focused on us today, and we're appreciating and enjoying how busy the beginning of the year was. And then when we're ready, then we'll say, okay, all right, universe,
Yeah.
send in some more projects.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at
Okay.
now, because it's so easy to just get caught up in like, why
Yeah.
aren't I making this number?
Yeah.
Why aren't I doing this? Why aren't I going on a vacation and being
Yeah.
relaxed? Or why aren't I getting to the gym enough? And it's like you beat yourself up.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, that doesn't get you anywhere other than stuck.
Right. And it's almost like one of my favorite phrases is you're protecting your yes. You're doing these things to protect your yes and to protect your team so
Mhm.
you can go do these bigger and more projects later on in the year. But it is one of my favorite sayings. It's you say no so you can protect your guests
Yeah.
sometimes. And
Mhm.
I think it's more powerful of a saying than we hold it to.
Yeah.
Especially as sometimes we just get so into things and we're like, oh, we checked something off the list, let's keep going, and we don't realize how far behind or
Yeah.
how much we do need that period of catch up, take a second, and get back to square one.
Yeah.
It's
Agreed.
it's so important. Felicia, my last question for you
Mhm.
is just what inspires you?
Um, sometimes I'm like, sometimes, actually, I will say the last few weeks I've been asking myself that a lot because I've had
Yeah,
some like just shifts in my routine and schedule that have
yeah,
completely thrown me off. I'm like, I'm lost.
yeah, yeah,
But so I'm like, in finding my way back is what really inspires me typically is getting out there and being around people. Because I have a tendency, like I love to work alone, and like I'm in my house or I'm in my office and I'm knocking stuff out. But when I'm not networking or going to an event or going to a dinner
right.
or going to like learning something,
Yes, yeah,
that's when I feel like my energy start to dip. So it's really
right,
like whether I'm working with my team or meet
yeah,
a new prospective client or go to like a trade show, those are the things that like make me feel like, ooh, my energy is like bursting
yeah,
out.
yeah. Yeah, that's where things are coming to life a little bit.
Totally.
I love that. I do have my bursts of energy. Well, what I call my bursts of energy. I'm like, I get to do stuff like this, and then I get to go and talk to people and get out, and then of course I like hit my drop where I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
I got
Yeah. Cause you can only be on so long. And then you're like, no, I got to go hide under the covers.
I'm like, I need like a 10-minute food, water break, whatever it is.
Yeah.
I just need to go sit by myself for just a second and collect
Agreed.
myself. But I'm very much the same way. I like to put myself in high energy situations where because it does feel like things are coming to life, things are happening,
Mhm.
the environment is just a little bit more lively. Um, but there is a crash down later
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
Agreed.
Well, Felicia, I can't thank you enough for coming on and speaking with me today. If you do not follow Felicia or Food Scene at all, their socials are going to be linked down below. But I'm incredibly excited to see what 2023 has to offer you guys and continue following along on your journey.
Thanks so much.
Yes. And as always, I will see you guys back here next time. Bye, y'all.